There are thousands of videos on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, but you're seriously telling me not a single one of them covered this topic? Don't mind me milking this cow. Effectively, Hank Schrader and Chuck McGill have very similar personalities. As your licensed doctor of TV analysis, let me explain myself. Hank is a DEA agent who likes his job. He deeply cares for his dearest colleagues and does everything he can to carry out justice, even if it means being made fun of or arresting his own brother-in-law. Sounds familiar? No? Okay then, let's talk about Chuck. Chuck is a lawyer who loves his job. He deeply respects the partners of his firm and does everything he can to do his job in a legal, righteous way, even if it means making everyone else think he's crazy or preventing his brother from advancing in his firm. I think I'm pretty clear now. They both love what they're doing and have a strong sense of right and wrong, which pushes them to do their jobs in the best way possible without resorting to illegal means or seeking a promotion. Yeah, I hear you all yelling over the screen saying, but their personalities are so different. Hank is always cracking jokes and Chuck is always manipulating people. Sure, Hank might make you laugh a lot more, while Chuck never even makes you, well, chuckle. You saw that coming, right? But by carefully analyzing their actions, you too could come to the same realization I did. And that realization is the feeling of control. Hank often makes jokes when a situation gets awkward or when someone says something he perceives as inappropriate. That's not something I'm imagining in my head, by the way. It's all shown through incredible direction, camera work, and obviously acting. Walter stays quiet when his shady business nearly gets exposed. Hank gives him a pat on the back, we get a nice close-up to see his amazing, kinda confused reaction, and then he cracks a silly dad joke. That way he remains calm and keeps the situation under control because now he can expect an obvious reaction to the joke. Do you see what I'm talking about? In the end, it's almost never about making a good joke. I don't think there's a lot of explaining to do about Chuck's need for control. So often he manipulates those around him to agree with him and do things the way he wants them to do. After all, he is a lawyer. Persuading people is his job. This is how we can realize that Chuck and Hank have the same need, which they manifest in a slightly different way, because otherwise the resemblance would be kinda uncanny. I guess you could say Jimmy and Walter try to get that feeling of control as well, but their manipulation comes from a completely different reason. With Walt and Jimmy, or Saul, or Gene, or whatever, it's solely about proving to themselves and those around them that they matter in society. Control they achieve is just a bonus. I could talk about that a lot more, but there are many videos covering this topic already, so why bother you with that? However, if you'd like to see an in-depth analysis video on Walter White or Saul Goodman, tell me down below. So, we've covered the similarities between Hank and Chuck in their sense of morality, ethics, and the need for control. Is there anything left to cover? Not a lot, just their biggest similarity of all. It's something I like to call the label. You know when someone tells you they got a new phone and you're like, oh, cool, which one do you get? Now, if they answer with iPhone or Samsung, everything's good. You might even congratulate them. Nonetheless, if they say Poco or God forbid Cubot, or however you pronounce that, you look at them in disgust and think, what the hell's wrong with you? In this situation, it's completely reasonable to slap this friend for buying such a crappy phone and wasting their money, but effectively what you did there is you put a label on something based on what you've heard about it. iPhone's labeled as good and Poco as horrid. That's what Hank and Chuck do, but with people, and the more I thought about it, the more I saw it. Starting with Hank again, doesn't it seem a bit weird to you that there's not a single point in the show where he starts doubting Walt, until the very end, that is? No, it doesn't. From the very beginning, writers have established that Hank sees Walt as a good, harmless person, labeling him as the most tame guy ever. We might not agree with that way of thinking, but we all know someone who acts like that. It's completely realistic, and to us, this question never arises. Just like we never doubt that he despises every criminal he's arrested. In fact, this is why the moment he realizes Walter cooks meth is so impactful. To him, that's a twist that changes Hank's beliefs from his very core and makes him question everything he's done in the last couple of years. I mean, that's just how you write a meaningful plot twist, not whatever we get from movies and TV shows these days. So how does Chuck fit into this way of thinking? Well, at the beginning of Better Call Saul, we see him as someone who respects his little brother, even though he never thinks Jimmy is a good, ethical lawyer. This is where we, as the audience, assume Chuck labels Jimmy as a good guy, and that's why it gets super intriguing when Jimmy realizes Chuck never even believed in him. Why didn't Chuck ever believe in his brother? He labeled him as slipping Jimmy a long time ago, and no matter how much Jimmy tried to redeem himself and take care of his brother, Chuck had no faith in him. This is another meaningful plot twist because it completely changes the way Jimmy perceives his brother, even the way we as the audience perceive Chuck. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how both Hank and Chuck see people and react to their actions. What's also mad is the fact that writers managed to completely invert the lens through which Hank looks at Walter when making the Jimmy and Chuck dynamic. Hank sees Walt as a nice guy, Chuck sees Jimmy as a disappointment. The reason why no one made a video about this yet is because writers masked the inspiration they got from Hank brilliantly. This way, we get a fresh perspective on the main character and his family relationships while maintaining that original feel of Hank's perspective. I sincerely doubt Hank and Chuck were made so similarly by accident, given the fact that both shows are unfathomably well written and they'll both be analyzed by many channels and videos to come. This can also serve as an inspiration to all upcoming writers, because it shows you how you can mold the character you have in your mind into any story if you think about it in the right way. This approach can also be used in all the other areas of life, whether it's having a great business idea or drawing a painting. All it takes is a good idea. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more content like this, and tell me what you think about the resemblance between Hank and Chuck. See you soon.